It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. Woo boy, it has been a week. It feels like every day is a week. It feels like every day is a month, doesn't it? This is our new reality. This is the pandemic economy. This is the pandemic life. And I know it's so hard for all of us. So let's try to get through this together. Let's be really nice to each other. And please do send me your emails. We have actually gone to a daily podcast in addition to this weekend radio show because we have gotten so many questions. If you would like to subscribe to that podcast, Jill on Money, you can get it anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. Those of you who aren't so adept at it, you can go to Apple, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere. It's really been helpful. We've heard a lot from you all, and you really need that help. And gosh, we want to be there for you. Your health comes first, but as we are all practicing our social distancing, some of us working from home and staying in the home, sometimes these podcasts can be a real lifeline to feel like you're talking to folks. And Mark and I are here for you. So just send us an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And of course, you can go to the website, jillonmoney.com. And there we've got a lot of stuff posted, a lot of stuff about what's going on, the latest updates about the economy. You can also, of course, see the various television segments that I've done. I'm losing my mind, Mark. You know that, right? Because I'm sort of like, what day is it? Where am I? What's happening? But we have a lot that has been going on. You can watch some of these and either they'll make you feel good or bad. I was able to do a fantastic segment for Sunday morning. I've been doing some Saturday morning stuff and lots of stuff during the week, both for CBS This Morning as well as for evening news. So you can check some of that out and let us know if you've got anything that you want to add to it. So let's take some questions because I think it is really important for you to really just get your questions out into the universe. Let us answer them and hopefully provide you with a little bit of comfort. Pamela writes, did you put any of your personal money into cash? I just did so with my 401k. My broker was totally against it. The crisis is going to drag the market to 0 points, in my opinion. What's your opinion on this major event in our lives? All right, Pamela, I'm going to fess up. I did the opposite. I actually I made my contribution for my retirement plan, which I had to do because I didn't realize my taxes would be delayed. So I had already filed my taxes and I put all of my money in at once and I didn't think twice about it. I just did it. So nope, I'm not going to cash. If anything, I've been thinking about maybe even tilting my portfolio a little bit more towards stocks because I'm a total wimp, but I don't want to mess with it. So that's what I suggest you do. Stick to your game plan. Don't do more than that. Maria said that we should only be that she read in an article that we should only be spending on necessities during the pandemic. How about 401k contributions? I'm concerned about the markets. Do I have a good portfolio mix? 30% bond, 30% large cap stocks, then another 10% small cap, mid cap, balance international. I have 10 years until retirement. I do have a pension and Social Security to supplement. Okay, so when I spoke about that, I was talking about people whose jobs were at risk. And I don't, you say that you have 10 years to retirement and a pension. I mean, if you really felt like your job was at risk and you wanted to start stockpiling money outside of your retirement account, then I think that you could do this. I mean, it would be, you could keep putting that money in the 401k. But if you feel like you're at risk, once you reach the matching level of your employer match, then I would pull back. So here's the message that everyone should hear. You need to make a distinction about what's going on in your particular financial life. So Maria, if your job is solid, if you are in healthcare, you're never going to lose your job, right? If you're in education, you're not going to lose your job. If you've worked for this company and you feel like the company, you're working from home and this is all good, then keep putting money away. But if you do feel like you are at risk, then I would try to certainly capture the match and then pull back, because it's time to really make sure that each of us has plenty of cash on hand. Okay? That's very hard. I will say. That's a hard decision. We don't want people to panic. Here's another 401k question from Jennifer. She wants to know about reducing the percentage of money coming out of your 401k at 53. Again, Jennifer, who listens to us in Pittsburgh on one of our favorite stations, KDKA. Listen, Jen, she signed it, Jen. I'm not just taking that, on myself to call her Jen. If you are comfortable right now with your cash position and you feel comfortable that you will be safe, not safe, that your job is relatively secure, then I wouldn't necessarily make a change. But I'm just looking at your email address and I know what industry you're in, and I could see why. I'm not going to out you, but I will say that I think it's important for everyone to really assess what your personal liability could be in this time. And then you make a different decision. Again, if you've got a match, I'd love for you to capture it and then you can pull back. And the cool thing is that even if you wanted to pull back for a little bit, if everything goes well, then just jam up your contribution levels later in the year, presuming that, your job is secure. So good luck with that. Big, huge, deep breath. Okay. All right. So Henry is writing about required minimum distributions. Gang, here's a problem. Required minimum distributions the rule is so weird. You basically have to look at last year's account value, and then you're forced to take out a certain percentage of that money if you're over 70 and a half going forward. So Henry and about a million other of you who have written in are saying, like, that doesn't seem fair. I understand that. I absolutely can understand why you don't want to have to be subject to that. But so far, we haven't had anything come out about legislation around that, or any maybe brief, maybe they'll give you some breathing room, or maybe a brief suspension of RMDs. My best advice right now when it comes to your required minimum distribution is don't take it if you don't have to. Leave the money in the account. I mean, if the money is sitting in cash and you were already doing that, you can just delay it till later in the year. You have until the end of this year, presuming they don't make any changes. So if you can afford to do that, that would be really good. Okay, quick question from Cesar, who's 65. Let's see. My wife is 62. She's got 401k money that's losing. What can we do? Should we sit tight? It's all gone in the wrong direction. Okay, here's the thing. If you don't have to touch this money, please don't. That's what I'm going to keep saying to you over and over again, like a broken record. Even if you're going to retire soon, hopefully you're going to be retired for a long time. So try not to touch the money. Okay. Whew. All right. That's one segment down, many to go. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, please send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com, and we've got a contact button there, and we will be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a question, these scary times demand some answers, and Mark and I are here for you. Hey, Mark, I forgot to tell them that we are broadcasting from the Capital One virtual studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? See, I put that virtual in there because we're not in a studio. So I don't want anyone to say, hey, you're not in the studio, because we're not, because the CBS News Broadcast Center is closed. And so Mark and I are doing the show remotely. And so we're a couple hundred miles away from each other, but that's okay. We talk constantly. Don't worry about us. All right. If you've got a financial question, it is really such a very scary time. We understand that. And so just send us your questions so we can start banging them out and getting through these issues and helping maybe calm some of your nerves. We can't calm you down when it comes to your health, but hopefully about your finances, we can. Lori writes that she and her husband were planning to retire at the end of the year. Okay, she goes on. I've been good about not panicking and selling anything in our retirement fund up to this point, but am now panicking, wondering if we should sell our equities and just accept our losses to this point while we still have enough left in there for our less robust retirement. Should we hold on to what we've got if it's enough and not risk losing more? Our money for the next few years was supposed to come from selling our house. We have a lot of equity in it. We were supposed to make a nice profit, but now who knows? We are both still working and may decide to extend that for a while, but hope to make things work without having to do that. Well, now that's an interesting question. Look, I am, as you all know, I am incredibly wimpy about this. And I think that if you were fortunate enough to be able to be at a point in your life where you can say, I can still work, I think you should still work. I think it's very bad to have the sort of misfortune of graduating into a recession or retiring into a recession. And so if you can avoid that, and then if you just said to yourself, well, let me work for another year and see how this goes, I think that's a much better alternative. And it's actually far more conservative than trying to figure out what's going to happen with the housing market, what's going to happen with the stock market. I don't know that. But if you had another year that you were thinking about, I think you'd be better off. So if you have that ability, that to me is a much better game plan than thinking about changing your allocation or relying on the housing market. So, not a good choice, I know. I might be too wimpy, maybe, but that's kind of where I am. Here's another one from D. We're in S&P 500 and S&P mid-cap indexes. Is it time to sell for cash? Look, guys, let me just start this by saying that you know what? There was I'm sorry, let me just go back. The D also asked about the exchange, the New York Stock Exchange floor being shut down. That was because of coronavirus. All the trading is done electronically, so you shouldn't worry about that. Okay, I don't know how old you are, D. Did you have 100% of your money in stocks? What? Guys, how many times do you have to hear this? Absolutely, positively, not to have 100% of your money in the stock market. Come on. And, should you make a change now? Well, listen, if you can't sleep at night, I guess you're going to have to. But I am flummoxed by the number of people who have just way too much risk in their accounts. And for those folks, if you're going to make a change right now, guess what? You better make that change forever, because if the market starts going up and you chase it and you change your allocation back, you are trying to time the market. You're also tending to sell low and buy high. So I'd be real careful before I start that process. Okay, Christine writes that she is 43 years old and she says, I've got a nice long time horizon before retirement and I'm comfortable with my aggressive portfolio strategy, even in these times. In fact, she says, I'm going to put a little more money into a dividend ETF this week. I'm going to take advantage of the drop. That's kind of cool. She goes, I have no question the market will come back before I need the money, and I feel calm about it. My mother, on the other hand, is 72, and she needs the $200,000 in her IRA, which is a conservative allocation strategy, to last for the next 15 years. Oh, brother. She's got a decent pension. It covers her essentials and a free Medicare supplement. Fantastic. From her union. The distribution she takes each month is covering things like maintenance on the house, as well as quality of life things. Our goal is to keep her in her home as long as possible. She's comfortable cutting back on some of the quality of life things if needed, but she's scared about not having enough money to do the home maintenance items and having to move to an apartment. She's asking me whether she should sell the assets in her IRA and keep what she can pull out in a money market. Yes, it locks in losses, but it would preserve what value she has against further drops. My gut says we shouldn't make any moves at this time. We don't know what shape the recession will take. She's young enough that the allocations and the allocations are conservative enough to give her some time to watch and wait. But now I'm second guessing myself. Is my aggressive style coloring my opinion too much? Should we pull any money out of the IRA before the market drops further? I don't think so. I mean, when you say conservative, I wonder what you mean. Like, what percentage of the portfolio is actually at risk? That's what I would like to know. I mean, if you're telling me it's less than 30%, which is kind of what I think of as a conservative portfolio, then no, I wouldn't do it. But if conservative to you means that she's 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds and cash, then that's not so conservative. So, presuming that conservative is what I consider conservative, I wouldn't do anything. The other piece of this to consider is, if she's going to stay in this house, maybe her in the back of your mind, you might start to do some research on a reverse mortgage. Now, it will be a bad time to do a reverse mortgage right this second because interest rates are so low, but it's not going to be this way forever. And so, one thing to consider is that maybe in 3, 4, 5 years, that a reverse mortgage could allow your mom to stay in that house and tap the equity that is available. So that's just something to keep in mind. Worth having out there, and certainly it's a good way to channel some of your anxiety. Do some research on something new. Okay. Joanne writes that my 92-year-old husband died in February 2020. I'm the beneficiary of his IRA. One just rolled over in October 2019. He took the required minimum distribution. Can my name be put on the account? Do I have to move it to a different account? So you have to move any IRA that you inherit from a spouse into a spousal IRA. And it's very easy to do. So wherever that IRA is held, you can do that. And it's pretty easy to do. No tax event is necessary. But that has to be, you can't just put your name in place of his. You'd have to be moving that to a different account. I know it might be yielding less interest, and maybe you could leave it in there for a while and just see how long that takes. But at some point, you're going to have to make that change. Okay. Lots of emails, Mark. Lots and lots of emails. Let me see if I can do one more before we get to the end here. Here's a question from Terry. My mother has so many treasury bonds. Many are matured. Is this a good time to cash them or should I wait? Hey, if your mom has double E or Series E bonds and if they're matured, go ahead and cash them in because they're not paying interest anymore if they're matured, right? So as long as they're not paying interest, and you can confirm this, go to treasurydirect.gov. But you're not getting any interest, certainly cash them in. If they're still paying interest, then you don't have to feel like there's any hurry to do that. We just did this with my mother-in-law. We cashed in some of the bonds because they, as they start, they'll at some point they stop paying interest, and then frankly, we don't like to do that. We don't like to have the government hang on to our money. You can absolutely cash those in. Okay. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money. Please send us your emails. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com or go to the website jillonmoney.com. Click the contact button, and we would be delighted to help you out. Take a deep breath, guys. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com, or when you're poking around our website, jillonmoney.com, because you're buying dozens and dozens of copies of my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs, out in paperback now. If you're on the website doing that, you can just click on the contact button. It's in the upper right-hand corner. Okay? Mary writes that she's got $60,000 in a money market account. It's earning about 0.5 percentage point of interest. I have $5,000. I have a $5,000 2.75% CD coming due soon. It would renew at the current rate of around 2%. I've got another 36-month 5K CD earning 2.7. I think both. I did both of them in online with Synchrony Bank. I think I was being overly cautious at the time with the amount I did. I have an advisor. I'm paying the fees, which you advise against. I don't advise against paying an advisor fees. I was an advisor who charged fees a long time ago, but I just want to make sure you're getting what you pay for. Okay. I have an IRA with her and an account which I have access to. It earns very low yield. I'm 72, single, no mortgage, debt-free. The mandatory IRA withdrawal is only adding to my low-interest money market account. I travel plenty, active social life. I keep my home up well. That's nice. Contribute modestly to charities, so I'm not a hermit saving my coins. I need to have money available for any large, unforeseen home expenses. It seems that it's probably too much money for me and it's earning too little. Question. Should I continue putting money into CDs, which seem to have the best yield? And if so, do you have a recommendation for other online banks or banks in general? Today, I find offers for 5-year CDs at 2.15%. Are there other options where I could put a little extra money? Thanks kindly for your advice. I love listening to your radio show. Okay, Mary, here's the deal. Oh, by the way, she says, I don't catch it every week. I've missed a question like this, but I'm not seeing anything on your website. We always get questions like this, but thank you so much, Mary. The best thing you can do is go to depositaccounts.com. That is one of those aggregators. Bankrate.com does it, but I don't know. I feel like we've done better, Mark, with the deposit accounts. Is that right? I think that they generally have kind of find the best rates. And there you can compare CDs. And you don't have to do it as a 5-year. Maybe you do a 3, a 5, a 7-year. I have no problem with you keeping extra money in cash. It's money that's safe. It makes you feel good. You're taking risk with other money with your advisor. And this is fine with me. I think that's just great. And especially because you're living the life you want to live. So I think go for it. All right? Good luck. Andy writes that his mother passed away in 2008, and he and his brother inherited a small IRA. I thought I'd cashed all of it out and it was wrapped up. Fast forward to 2020, I was contacted by phone by an advisor that handled her IRA, and they informed me that I had an account with them and they wanted to review the account. I was dumbfounded. I hadn't received any statements or any information. This came as a total surprise. As of now, there's about $14,000 in the account. I'm concerned about how this needs to be cashed out, how it needs to be handled in regards to taxes. I'm concerned that there will be severe tax penalties for not having drawn the account down by now. The advisor I met with suggested writing the IRS note that I had no knowledge of this account to avoid penalties. I doubt the IRS will take into consideration notes of ignorance in lieu of following their rules. Oddly enough, they do, actually. But here's the question. I don't understand why you're going to get penalized for this. Because your mother passed away in 2008. Did you have to take... I thought that you could take this out over the course of your own life. So I'm not really, they did drop the ball. So let me just talk about what needs to happen right now. Number one is stop talking to this advisor and find out who the branch manager is or the regional manager and say that, of course, they had responsibility to notify you years ago about this account. And yes, they dropped the ball. And if there's any charge or if there's anything you did wrong or any fees to be paid, they're going to have to cover it. They screwed it up. That's the deal. But I don't know if you are going to need to take the money out. You should be able to operate under the old rules before the Secure Act, and that would be you'd be able to stretch those payments out over the course of your life. That's the old rules. Okay, here's a question from Gwen about the Secure Act. Gwen turned 70 in December, and she goes, I have to wait until I'm 72 to begin the required minimum distribution. Is that correct? You turned 70 in December 2019, so you're under the old rules. Sorry. So you don't get to do that. The question is, if you turn 70, this is going to be tough. She didn't turn 70 and a half in 2019. She turned 70 in December. So, yeah, I think you get the new rules. So you can take money out whenever you want, by the way. You don't have to wait, but you are required to begin taking out when you turn 72 because the old rules were you were 70 and a half and you didn't turn 70 and a half. Okay? Whew. Okay. Question about Roth IRAs in the Secure Act. No, Roth IRAs are not subject to the 10-year period under the Secure Act. We had a question here from Bill. So, no, when your kids are inheriting a Roth, they do not have to take that out over that same 10-year time horizon, at least under the current rules. And right before we go out, let me just say that here's a question from Gene, who's got an RV loan at 5.5%. He says he's got an affordable payment, but not a lot going to principal. He says, I'm not interested in a low percentage home equity loan if that's my only option to save. Why aren't you? I don't get that. Because 5.5% is a lot in this environment. So why wouldn't you just either get rid of the RV and pay, and then you get done with the loan, or refinance, get some sort of home equity loan on your your residence. Otherwise, yes, the best thing to do is to make extra payments, Gene. But I don't understand why you wouldn't try to just get cheaper money. It's out there. I don't know. Good luck. Okie doke. It's Jill on Money. And if you've got a financial question, we want to hear from you. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Don't forget, you can always go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. Click on the resource section. So much great stuff there, so check it out. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Kind of dancing in the studio, standing up. It's like those Peloton instructors who dance on their bike seats. Mark, you don't like those ones, right? He wants them riding, not talking too much. The best thing on the Peloton, Mark, is when you change the volume. Have you seen that, where you can make more music and less talk? I'm all about that. Do you wear headphones, or do you just blast it through the apartment so Theo can ride with you? Okay, me too. All right. If you've got some Peloton tips, just let us know. Mark is not public to anyone. You would never know who he was. I am, but you'll never know my name. Mark, does that mean that no one can high five you in the middle of your ride? I'll get some high fives, too. Do you give them back or not? Oh, my God. You're such a curmudgeon. I always give it back. That's just polite. Gosh. All right. Here's a question from Cheryl. She and her husband, both in our 60s, our mortgage is about, $110,000 in principal, interest rate 4.5%. We've got 23 years left on the loan. Should we consider looking into a refi? We're not concerned with a payoff, but we want to cash out for some home improvement. Well, if you're going to do a home improvement, then yeah, why not? With interest rates where they are, it's certainly worth going and refi, especially if you're going to stay in the house for more than 5 or 7 years. Why not? And that way you can get the money and it's cheap. And depends if you have other money that's available, maybe that's better, but certainly worth taking a look at. Okay? Robert writes, we're starting our 5th year in retirement. Congratulations. Every January, we fund our yearly expenses by withdrawing from our IRA accounts an amount that will cover our new expenses for the upcoming year. How should we allocate those? How shall we allocate those IRAs to withdraw the funds? I'm 67. She's 66. Our retirement account is just over $2 million. I've got 52% in stocks. She's got 48%. Initially, since I am 1 year closer to RMDs than her, I should try to lower my fund balance. Is there a better way of deciding whose funds get spent first? This is like, you don't need to worry about this, first of all. Here's what I would say. whatever you need for the upcoming year should be in cash. Okay. And at age 66 and 67, you have both basically have balanced portfolios, essentially. What I would do is I would allocate it and make sure that you rebalance every single year. And you've got to make sure that whatever that number is, that amount of money that you need in cash, that it's in cash. And don't mess around with it. And when, especially because it's a retirement account and there's absolutely no tax event. So to me, this is a no-brainer. Don't take too much risk. Keep the money in cash that you're going to need. And maybe what you want to do is also, instead of reinvesting some of the dividends or distributions, maybe you want that going into the cash account. But honestly, if you just rebalance once a year, you should be fine. Okay? That'll work for you. Okay, here's a question from Kelly. Kelly says, I'm 67 years old. My wife is 68, and I'm getting ready to retire in June. Woo! I'm going to have about $40,000 a year in income between Social Security and pensions. My wife will continue to work her part-time job, and that pays about $30,000 a year. She's collecting her Social Security right now. Her pension, when she retires, combined with Social Security, should be about $20,000 to $25,000 a year. Okay, so let's get that down, guys. Okay, so 20 to 25, and he's got 40, so 60 to 65 grand. Okay, they've got $500,000 in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and another 150 grand in the bank and CDs. I've been approached by an investment firm, wants to manage my money more actively and sounding pretty good. They're suggesting going with a 100% stock portfolio or a 70-30 stock bond. They're claiming I can take $2,200 a month out as income, even including the 1.5% fee, and will still grow my money to a large sum over the next 10 to 20 years. They're also suggesting cashing out an annuity, which is in the $500,000 portfolio. Okay, that's interesting. And they've withdrawn some money from the annuity. We live in a nice neighborhood in Seattle. Appreciate your opinion and suggestions. I don't know why you have to spend 1.5% fee. That's what pops out to me, Kelly. It sounds to me like you and your wife are going to have nice income. I'm not exactly sure whether you need anyone to help you out. If you've got $500,000 in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, I probably would start looking at that annuity. But you know what I would do first? I might get an overall plan for your retirement from somebody who is neither the old firm nor the new one trying to poach you. I might get somebody who's maybe a NAPFA advisor, a National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, a NAPFA advisor, napfa.org, who is a fee-only planner, and get an unbiased opinion and pay some just blank, like some amount of money. Or you can check out other places that will give you the similar kind of services at a fraction of the cost. Vanguard Personal Service Advisor, Schwab Intelligent Portfolio, Facet Wealth, Betterment, Wealthfront. All of these are possibilities. So check it out. Good luck. Let us know if you have any questions. You're listening to Jill on Money. Hey, if you want to, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. All right, we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And we are broadcasting from the Capital One virtual studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Okay, remember, we're here to help you out. I know that we are getting slammed with emails. We're doing our best to get through them all. If you need a little bit more hand-holding, go ahead and check out our daily podcast. It's called Jill on Money. just go out and subscribe. You can get it anywhere you get podcasts: Spotify, Google Play, Apple, Stitcher, radio.com. Just download it and subscribe. And that way you won't miss a single bit of hopefully what we're doing is financial wisdom, but mostly it's holding hands. So let's get through this together, okay? Here's somebody named, let's see, Sheila, who writes, "Thanks so much for the daily podcast." See that? Says it helps us stay grounded but not sink. Here's my question. 3 months ago, I moved about a third of my retirement funds into the Vanguard Intermediate and Long-Term Bond Funds. I moved 35% in cash and I reduced my equity exposure to 30% to prepare for what I thought would be a rocky 12 to 18 month period. Okay, wait a second. 3 months ago, guys, she did it before the whole thing fell apart. Now she says, "I'm concerned that the bond funds may have more triple B corporate bonds that I'm happy about. Do you think the Fed buying bonds will help stabilize these indexes?" Just as a reminder, the Federal Reserve announced measures to start buying corporate bonds, but only investment grade corporate bonds. I don't think they're going to be buying any junk bonds. But so we're clear. I think that these will recover when things do recover, but there are going to be some bankruptcies. There's going to be some debt that doesn't quite. There's going to be some companies that don't make it. So in that respect, I still would just hang in there. She says, "I want to start buying individual stocks sometime and slowly rebalance more towards 45% in equities." Some advice in buying strategies: just pick a dollar amount. Don't pick individual stocks. Buy some indexes, or if you're going to buy stocks, that's fine, but just take a certain amount every single month, okay? And dollar cost average it. Okay, that's the end of the first hour. If you've got questions, we want to hear from you. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All righty, it's hour number 2 of Jill on Money, where we are broadcasting from the Policy Genius virtual studios. Don't forget, Policy Genius, it's the easy way to compare and buy insurance. All you have to do is go to policygenius.com. All right. I know. The questions are pouring in. And Mark had this brilliant idea, which, I mean, who knows where these ideas come from except out of necessity. He says, we got to do a daily podcast. We're getting too many questions. And what's been amazing is that he was 100% correct. And so we now have started creating a daily podcast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, daily, so that we can answer more of your questions. So if you would like to get that podcast, all you have to do is subscribe. And you can subscribe anywhere you either get podcasts. If you don't really know about this whole podcast thing, this is a wonderful time while you got some time, right? You don't know what to do with yourself. I gave my mother this lecture. I said, "Why don't you?" She got really mad because I was trying to teach her how to download something. And she goes, "I can't do it." And I said, "You know what? You're going to do it because you've got all the time in the world to figure out how to do these things. Let's figure out how to do something we haven't done before." Everyone's learning how to use Zoom. Everyone's learning how to use Skype. All these things, right? We're learning. So let's learn together. Okay, now. Here's our question. Let's get into it. Min, who writes, I enjoy reading your column in the Chicago Tribune. My question: my financial planner, who I've had for 5+ years, is now calling me to sell stocks. Wow, that's amazing. This came in on this past Monday. Okay. Min goes on, "I've had some medical issues. I haven't been able to focus on my portfolio lately. It appears I am at least 75% in equities. So it's not balanced. I'm 63 years old and I'm probably okay holding on for 5 years until retirement. Should I hold or allow him to sell?" This is a tough one because in some respects, you never should have been 75% in stocks. However, if considering you don't really need this money and you say you don't need this money, and as long as you're sure about that, you can wait. And as things kind of recover, you can decide to make the change after that time comes. That could be a year or two. It could be, so I want to be 100% clear that this may not happen all at once. But you know what, Min? I will say this. Seems to me that you should be shopping for a new financial advisor because you never should have been 75% in stocks. Never. Just never, never, never. Okay? So I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Thomas writes, I presently have a 5% 30-year mortgage with 18 years left to go. He wants to know, how low will more home mortgages go? Let me tell you how low they are. They're lower than 5% on 30 years. If you think you're going to stay in this house, what you may want to do is to refinance. And I think it's worth considering whether in your case, you might want to go to a 15-year, because then you don't lose any time, and drop that rate down. So what I would be interested in knowing is more about yourself, but at the very least, what I would do is I would shop around for new mortgages. I would look and I would look at rates online, but I would also talk to a mortgage broker who can tell you whether or not it's worth a refi. Okay? Very important to do. It's one of the few bright silver linings of this crisis is that a lot of people are able to refinance. And I think if you can refinance now and you've got you got some leeway here, and to explore, I would absolutely, positively make that happen. Okay? Make sense? Fantastic. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? Gosh, it's I'm sort of exhausted right now, Mark, I have to say. I'm like pulling in people's own anxiety, and I don't want to do that. So I want to make sure I'm being even keeled. Am I being even keeled enough? I hope so. Okay. Dawn writes, I have $21,000 in a brokerage account with Wells Fargo. It was $30,000 3 weeks ago. I asked my money manager if I should pull it and go into cash. He suggested I ride the wave. It could come back in 2 to 3 quarters of and my question to you, should I pull it now and put it in a cash account? How much will I lose if I do that? Well, let's just tell you that what you will lose is the $7,000 that you have lost in the market. That said, you also may lose more if you have any sort of accounts that have loads that, you paid a commission, got in and out. Okay. By selling, she says, at least it wouldn't fall anymore. But it's not really wise. So it's not going to go to zero. It's going to get worse probably before it gets better. But that said, I still think it would be really important for all of us to kind of calm down a little bit and not be so reactive. Here's the problem. When the blank is hitting the fan, you feel like you want to do something. And it makes you feel like you're more in control, but you're not. Okay? So we've got to remember that our human impulse is to want to do something. And I'm telling you that you don't have to do something. Okay. Lee, is that right? Hold on. Let me make sure I got the name right. Lee says, can you recommend a local or online financial advisor that works as fiduciary fee-only based? Okay, for fee-only advisors, you go to NAPFA, N-A-P-F-A, napfa.org. That's where you go. If you're looking for online, there are not so many fee-onlys, but there are certainly many fee-based. You should also check out the fiduciaries at Vanguard, or you can look at Schwab. They have Intelligent Portfolio. You can check out Facet Wealth, which is we had one of the co-founders on the show, Brent Weiss. You can check that out. But for fee only, you must go to NAPFA, and that's where you go. Okay, so good luck. And again, the reasonable fee ones: Vanguard, Schwab, Facet Wealth, Betterment. Try any of those. Okay. All right. I feel good though, because now all of a sudden, Mark, I am, starting to crank through these and I feel like I'm getting somewhere. Isn't that good? Okay. Nate is asking about, okay. Normally, taxpayers have until April 15th to make tax contributions for HSAs, IRAs. Now that the deadline has been moved from April 15th to July 15th, did the deadline to make those contributions also change, or is the April 15th deadline in place? I'm a trial lawyer. My income fluctuates. I think that all of these things are predicated on tax filing. Now, I don't have an official account on that. Mark, we should definitely email our friend Ed Slott to find out. But I think you're going to have until your tax filing deadline. We're going to confirm that and get back to you and let you know. Okay, it's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com or hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are all working together to address our anxieties surrounding the markets and our finances as the pandemic continues to spread. I know this is so hard for everyone. And I get that it is almost nearly impossible to kind of process the daily deluge of information. So, to that end, I really want to encourage you guys to send us a note. Let us help you out. We are here for you. Okay. So, the thing that I think is important is especially if you're kind of sleepless, you have anxiety around this stuff, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Okay, Joe writes in his message, I love, great show. Thank you for going daily, which is so sweet. So remember, we're doing our podcast daily. It's called Jill on Money. Okay, Joe is 57 years old, and he says, I've got 10 years until retirement. My allocation is 60% stock, 40% bond, and I have total market index funds. I've been rebalancing once a year each January. I'm wondering if I should rebalance again since stocks have dropped significantly, or just wait to rebalance until next January. You know what? I think you just maybe want to wait till next January. I like sticking to my system. If you were doing quarterly, that would be one thing, but you know what? It's sort of like it may be the best thing for you to do is to, as much as possible, stick to the system that you have. Okay? So I think that would be great. So hang on. Don't go crazy. It'll be all right. Stephanie writes, my husband is in the military and we are currently overseas. Oy vey. Our move back to America was supposed to be in April, but of course, due to travel restrictions, we don't know when we'll actually move back. But whenever we do, we're going to need to buy a car. Will all of this uncertainty make it easier or harder to buy? We're planning on buying a car with cash, and we're already terrible negotiators on a good day. I guess I just want to know if you think the car dealerships will be clinging to every penny to make a profit or be just happy that someone wants to buy a car. The latter. It is the latter for sure. And then the follow-up question, do you think the car industry will bounce back quickly, causing us to miss any deals while waiting for the government to move us? No. I do not. You know what? Already the car dealerships and the automotive industry was already bracing for a rough year before this. No way. You're going to see plenty of deals all year long. Okay, follow-up question. We're in the process of rebalancing my husband's thrift savings plan. That's the retirement plan for government. And we have it set at 40-40-20 in the C fund, the S fund, and the I fund. Should we move it out of the I fund and switch it to 60-20-20 or just rebalance like normal? They're both in their early 30s. They don't plan on touching it. Keep all systems go, guys. Don't try to outthink it. Stick to your system and certainly that to me is an incredibly important thing for you to do. Just stick with the program. Okay, great. John writes that I loved your book and I passed it down to my daughter. I retired 2 years ago. My wife plans to retire on September 1st. We've been vigilant about saving and investing as our only child has Asperger's. Thankfully, she's gainfully employed, but we always felt we were saving for 2 retirements, ours, and hopefully leaving her some money as well to aid her retirement. She contributes to her company 401k. She understands how important that is. With a probable deep recession ahead, my anxiety is overwhelming me about whether or not our different assets are protected by SIPC, SIPC, and FDIC. Okay, so here's the thing. SIPC is the Securities Industry Protection Corporation, and it protects 100 grand in cash and $400,000 in securities, if I believe that's correct. Yes. Um, and FDIC is $250,000 per account. And so there's a lot of questions here about what's covered, what's not. He's got a whole bunch of different things. John, here's what I want you to know. I don't think that you need to worry about this. I think that um, the whole point of SIPC and FDIC is to protect you against the failure of the institution. And already the Federal Reserve has essentially said, we are not letting institutions fail. We are not going to let individuals fail. I don't think you need to worry about this. So I would say this: relax, don't worry too much. I don't see the failure of financial institutions as something that you need to be concerned with. That's not the nature of this kind of crisis, okay? Okay. Here's Mike, who is writing, Jill, first, when you come on CBS or NPR, I do not leave the room until you are finished. That is so nice to say. Thank you. I have quite unexpectedly come into a significant amount of cash. I have a lifetime public school retirement pension and do not need the money for daily living. I will give a tithe to benevolence through my church, but that will leave several thousands of dollars for me to process. Is now the time to invest in a managed stock fund, or should I put it in my checking account, save it for when the market is more stable? Is this the classic buy low moment? My financial advisor says yes, but I'm seeking a second opinion. I want to be a wise steward of the provision with which God has blessed me. Thank you for all you do for so many. God's blessings and be safe out there. Hey, Mike, thank you so much. So I think this is an amazing time for you to put this money to work. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't see another 20% decline in the stock market. I don't know. There could be a 20% up, there could be a 20% down. But what we do know is that you've got a chunk of money that you essentially don't need. And so as a result of that, this gives you an amazing amount of flexibility. And the flexibility is that you can put that money into, I wouldn't say a managed fund, I would just buy an index fund, an index bond fund, an index stock fund, maybe an index international fund, and call it a day. And don't make yourself too crazy about the timing of it. I think you're going to be in just great shape. And wow, what an opportunity for you. I mean, it's so crazy. But, when you have this kind of moment in time, most people don't have the luxury to say, I don't need this money. You have that luxury, and I want you to take advantage of it. And of course, know that as soon as you put the money in to the market will go down because that's just the way it works. But again, remind yourself, why am I investing? I'm investing for the long term. I don't need this money. And if you can do that, I think that you're going to be very happy that you were given this opportunity. Okay. Okay. Hi, Jill and Mark. I've heard you recommend balancing quarterly rather than once a year, as I've generally done. I'm 63. I've opted for a split of 60% bonds, 40% stocks. Um, and before the bottom fell out, I had 500 grand in a 401k, just under $100,000 in a Vanguard brokerage account, 30 grand in a Roth IRA. I thought about increasing my 401 contribution to 15% of my salary from 10%. but should I also consider rebalancing quarterly given the current situation? Again, I want to just point out that I really want people to stick to whatever they have created. So if you've been rebalancing annually, that's fine. If you've been rebalancing quarterly, that's fine. But whatever it is, stick to your game plan. Do not alter it. I love the idea, if you can afford it though, to increase your 401k contribution. If you can afford it, that's fine with me. Then I would go for. Okay, that is it for this segment. So it's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, email us. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Head over to the website, jillonmoney.com. The contact button is there for you, and so is all of our great content. Hey, did I tell you? We got a free weekly newsletter. Mark is rocking that newsletter. So sign up for that. Just go to jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. You know, these are extraordinary times, and we understand that. And to help you out, we just want to hold your hand. We want to answer questions. We want to tell you about all the different programs that are available, what's happening. But you've got to do a little something. Just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And you can also send us a note from our website, from jillonmoney.com, the contact button in the upper right-hand corner. And I encourage you during this time of social distancing and of needing to really hear some voice of reason. I would consider myself a voice of reason. Do subscribe to our podcast. It's called Jill on Money. And you can get it anywhere that you get your podcasts. So maybe that's Apple. Maybe that's Spotify. Maybe that's Stitcher. Maybe that's radio.com. Who knows? Maybe it's Google Play. I don't know where you get your podcast. If you've never podcast before, you never listened to a podcast, it's really easy to do. So please use this time wisely and maybe learn something new. I was thinking about refreshing my knowledge of bridge during this time, but I don't actually have that much time. So maybe that's not going to work for me. Okay. You know, a lot of you guys have always written in and called in about student loans. I just want to remind you that the Department of Education has announced that anyone who has a federal student loan, that's $1.5 trillion, by the way. If you've got a federal student loan, you're going to have your interest rate automatically set at 0% for at least 60 days. Now, when that was first announced, the payment was going to remain the same, but the payment would all go towards principal. But now you just have to understand that, especially for you or maybe your kids, if you're impacted negatively, maybe for work-wise, you're going to have the option to suspend federal student loan payments for at least 2 months without accruing interest. Now, that's really important. And the next caveat is that the interest rate reduction, that's automatic, but you are going to have to request the suspension of payment. That's called forbearance. You're going to have to go to your loan servicer online or by phone, and you're going to have to ask for that. Now, if you've lost your job, if you got reduced hours, if you're really fearful, if you're trying to hoard some cash, this is a really good thing to do. All right. Studentaid.gov is the website. 1-800-4-FED-AID, 1-800-4-FED-AID. That's how you get some forbearance on your student loans. Really good information to have there. Okay. All right. What do we got here? Okay. Chris writes, Jill, thanks for everything you do. And Mark, I'm sure he's saying that to you as well, or maybe she, Chris. Okay. Chris says, I'm thinking of refinancing my primary home mortgage. The house is worth $450,000. We owe $258,000. 20 years to go. The 30-year mortgage rate was 4.375%. I'm married and my wife has been a stay-at-home mom for over 30 years. I love this. She is now, quote, retired from that and volunteering with different community organizations. She's 57. I'm 58. I love my work as information security and privacy consultant. I don't expect to retire anytime in the next 10 years, maybe not 15 or 20. That's cool. Last year, I made about $250,000 after expenses, my best year ever. That said, the recession and slow recovery of 2008 and beyond was especially hard. But now all my kids are off the payroll. They're doing well. Other debts. $32,000 in a parent student loan at 5.69%, $13,000 in a car loan at 4.09%, and $77,000 from my oldest son at 2%. Credit cards get paid off every month. We have about $1.25 million in equity-heavy, index-oriented retirement accounts, even after the recent tumble. We don't need to tap it for a long time. We're confident it will go back up. We have also recently built up a $30,000 emergency fund, but with $10,000 a month in expenses, we'd like to see that higher. My primary question, should I refinance for 15 or 30 years? And should I wait a few weeks to see if rates drop more? Okay, so he sends in some stuff, just some more info. Here's what I would say. I think what I would do is you've got this loan right now. Let's think about this. So you've got a loan that has 20 years to go, but you have these other debts. I think what I would do is this. I think that I would have that 200. Let's do some maths, as they say in Great Britain. So you've got a $450,000 house, and what we know is that you could get, let's say, 80% of that. Just to be safe, I'll just say 0.75. Okay, so we can get you 300. Let's call it 335,000, and you've got 258. Okay, so can we pay off all this other debt? I think so. You've got the 32 of the plus loan. You've got the 13 car loan. I'm not going to worry about the other loan, the 2% loan. Here's what I think you're going to do. You're going to take that $258,000 and you're going to take an extra $45,000 out. You're going to pay off that parent student, the plus loan and the car loan. Pay those off full on. And what I think I would do is I would look at the pricing for a 20-year. I would look at a 15-year and a 30-year, and let's see what you can get right now. And the good news on a 30-year is that it'll stretch your payments out. But you are getting to the place where probably a 15-year would be fine. I'm guessing we're going to probably use a 15-year mortgage. You're going to pay off these outstanding other loans. So you're done with those. And then you'll have the money necessary to, do other things. But I think that could be good. I'm sure that rates are going to sort of stick in this area where, it's going to be 3 3/4 or 3.5. But I think that as long as you're keeping it in a conventional loan, you're going to be in great shape. So I think that that's what you're going to do. I think a 15-year, pay off that other debt. And if you have any follow-up questions, just give us a holler. It's Jill on Money. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
(401ks), IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Mark's making fun of me because I was like, oops, did I just go too long? I'm all over the place. Trying to make sure we get your questions answered. I'm just really shoving a ton of questions in. We kind of threw out the whole show that we had planned for this weekend and decided we were going to have to do all questions, all emails. It's so hard. I know. We want to be here for you. So if you have a question, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety from what's going on, don't hesitate. Give us a holler. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And if you're on our website on jillonmoney.com and you're fiddling around, you're watching some great content on TV stuff or listening to old shows, or maybe you've downloaded the podcast, just shoot us a note. We've got a contact button in the upper right hand corner or the upper right corner. Okay, so we just did a question about your mortgages, and that is again a silver lining that we're seeing a drop in mortgage rates. Here is a question from Jeremy. The subject is mortgage payoff versus saving. And here's what Jeremy says. My wife and I are both 48. We're mostly empty nesters. We live in Nebraska. I work as a manager for a small manufacturing company. My wife is a public service employee. I do have some concern about my job as our company business has slowed significantly, and elimination of my job could pay 2 to 3 production employees. My wife and I have worked very hard to save and pay down any debt. We currently have 4 to 6 months cash to cover expenses, longer with some belt tightening. Our only debt is the remainder of our mortgage. We have been paying an additional $950 a month towards the principal, and at that rate, we should have it paid off in 3 years. Here is my question. Should we stop the extra payment towards principal during this turbulence and save that money to fatten our cash position, knowing that it will lengthen our mortgage? We would intend to sit on the cash only for an emergency, and if the situation were to improve quickly, we could pay that back against the remaining principal. Jeremy, I don't even think you have to pay it back. This is an easy one. If you have been aggressively paying down your mortgage, you can stop doing that, because it is much more important that you have any and all cash available. Okay? This is incredibly important, guys. This concept of having your emergency reserve and having it funded, and I'm not talking about 3 months or 2 months, I'm talking about 6 to 12 months, then absolutely, positively, please pull back on that mortgage paydown, beef up the emergency reserve, and then I think you'll be in great shape. Okay, here's Allie who writes, I'm wondering if I should continue to buy stocks through my employee stock purchase plan. My employer offers a 15% discount. I've been putting $1,000 each month towards purchasing stocks, getting about $1,150 in stock value each month. My employer is a large Fortune 200 company, and I had been selling my stocks each quarter for a modest return. Obviously, the stock has tanked recently. I would sell at a loss if I stuck to my original strategy. I don't immediately need the cash. On the other hand, I'm concerned that I may be laid off, and so I'm wondering, should I allocate more cash to my emergency from each paycheck rather than purchasing these discounted stocks? The answer is yes. Stop doing this. Even if you are 28 years old, which you are, and even if you make 90 grand a year, and even though you have no debt and you have a modest rental, does not matter. So here's what I would say. No more stock purchase plan. Now you're finding out that automatic increase in value only works in a bull market. So here's the thing. Absolutely, positively, stop putting money into the stock purchase plan. Put the money in. You say she says I have 5-month emergency fund. So I would say I really think it's important that you put at least 6 months in there, and 9 would make me happier. How's that? So Allie, these employer stock plans. I tell you what, Mark. This is like goes into the realm of what Jill's magic wand would be, of like something that could come out of this terrible period. Here's the thing. I would really be so happy if companies stopped employee stock purchase plans and maybe were prevented from doing that. But maybe more importantly, how about no more stocks in 401k plans? How about that? as a good upside. I thought that was going to happen after the dot-com boom and bust. I thought that was going to happen after the 2008-2009 recession and financial crap out. So once and for all, can we stop doing this? Can we help our employees avoid the landmines that we are just throwing out there for them? This is incredible. Oh, I'm on a soapbox, Mark. Thank goodness we're coming to the end of the segment, Mark is probably saying to himself, which we are. Okay. So please, no, right now we're in the essentials mode. Okay. Unless you're fortunate enough to be so secure in your job, please, only the essentials. That is why I'm not buying a second Peloton, even though I really want one. Mark, you knew that was coming, right? Its spouse will not let that occur, not during the emergency period here. Okay, it's Jill on Money. If you have a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That's Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. We are broadcasting from the Policy Genius remote studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. It has been a rough couple of weeks here, and we want to encourage you to send us your questions. Anything you got on your mind. And we're going to try to field as many of them as we can, either on the weekend show, which you're listening to right now, or on our daily podcast. That daily podcast is called Jill on Money, and you can get it on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your podcasts. Subscribe to it. It's easy. You won't miss a single episode, and we are going daily, including weekends. Okay, John writes, why can't the large corporations borrow money to support their needs for cash? Interest rates have never been this low. They shouldn't need the government to bail them out. Good question, John. Unfortunately, no one will lend to them because they're scared. And so that is part of the reason why the Federal Reserve has said, hey, you know what? We're going to have to buy investment grade corporate bonds. It's not because they want to, it's because no one will buy them. And when no one will buy those bonds means that the corporations themselves don't have access to money. That's why they probably need bailouts. Matthew writes, I love the podcast. I check in every day. Matthew says, I've been buying stocks through DRIPs for about 30 years. This is an old concept. And now Matthew says, I'm wondering, considering changing plans to have dividends sent to me rather than buying more shares. The thought was it was time to receive something concrete to help with the bills. Any advice? Well, I mean, it depends. Conceivably, I would say that your DRIPs, hopefully you didn't need this money because, these are just stocks, individual stocks. If you need the dividends, sure, you can have them sent to you, but I would be interested in understanding what other forms of income you have and if this is really an important aspect, because perhaps maybe you don't need the money. Okay, that's it, Mark, right? That's the show. And we are delighted and we thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, tune in, send us your emails, Jill on Money, and our address is askjill at jillonmoney.com. We will talk to you next week, or maybe talk to you tomorrow if you sign up for that podcast. Okay, take care, guys.